and get a box, come out a little bit and try to lift off from there. That's going to change the intensity of the movement. So grab onto something, get nice and strong, get tall through the torso, and lift, squeeze those hamstrings. Today we're going to talk about 5 knee exercises that you should be doing. Before we get started, make sure you smash the subscribe button so you never miss a post from me again. All right, the very first thing you should be doing at a minimum is your knee cars. Knee cars are a great entry point, and it's a great way to not only assess your joint, but to understand your joint a little bit more and also give the joint its nourishment that it deserves, moving throughout its full range of available motion. CAR stands for controlled articular rotations, and there's an emphasis on the word controlled because we want to know what space you can control. Check out this clip on how to do a proper knee car. Seated knee cars, okay? I'm gonna hold my leg here in a seated position. I'm not gonna hold it super tight. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate my tibia into internal rotation and extend. Bring it back, rotate into external rotation, extend. Back, rotate, extend. Okay? Because of the position in relationship to gravity, this is going to bias the quadricep tissue a little bit more than it biases the hamstring flexors. But remember that rotation of the tibia places demands on the hamstrings. So the hamstrings are required to pull in order to create that rotational movement. So if you notice, the knee is supposed to rotate, and one of the fundamental movements of our joints is rotation. And so understanding that the knee is supposed to rotate is a big aha moment for a lot of people. What we need to understand is if our knee doesn't rotate well, then we need to learn how to rotate our knee better. And so one of the things we can do to improve our range of motion for internal and external rotation of the knee joint is PAILs and rails. PAILs stands for Progressive Angular Isometric Loading. It's just an acronym. And rail stands for Regressive Angular Isometric Loading. Progressive just means the tissue that's being stretched. Regressive just means the tissue that is being shortened. And so in the case of your knee joint, the progressive tissue is going to be the tissue that is being stretched as you open into rotation, and then the regressive tissue is going to be the tissue that is going to be closing down. So if I were to look at my joint and I would see, okay, I'm going into external rotation, the tissue on this side of the joint would be the progressive tissue, the tissue on this side of the joint would be the regressive tissue. And the tissue responsible for those things is your hamstring tissue. Check out this next clip as I show you how to do PAILs and rails for both internal and external rotation of the tibia. Do internal rotation, PAILs and rails for tibial rotation. Okay, so I'm going to start and take my tibia into as much internal rotation as I can. I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to place it on the outside of my foot, and I'm going to try to squeeze a little bit more rotation out into internal rotation. I'm going to hold that for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm going to begin to try and rotate into external rotation. So that direction against my hand getting heavy, ramping up over time to my maximum effort, using this outer part of my hamstring. So you should feel that stuff contracting on the outside of the leg. My rails contraction is going to be trying to get more internal rotation going that way, so away from my hand. And that's going to ask me to place demands on this tissue here as I try to rotate further into internal rotation. External rotation. So I'm going to move my tibia into external rotation, then I'm going to take my hand, reach around the outside of my knee. I'm going to take it, grab the inside of my foot, and I'm going to rotate just a little bit further, try to sneak out a little bit more rotation of the tibia. I'm going to hold that for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm going to begin my PAILs contraction, ramping slowly up to max effort, moving inward, trying to move in against my hand, okay? So increasing the pressure against my hand. That should activate this part of your hamstring tissue as it tries to contract. And then for my rails contraction, I'm going to immediately go back the other direction maximally, trying to activate this side of my hamstring tissue, which contracts to try and pull my tibia into further external rotation. PAILs and rails are not just used for rotation, but PAILs and rails can also be used for our linear movements. So this next clip, I'm going to show you how to do PAILs and rails for knee flexion. So I'm going to get into a split kneeling position here, and bring the heel towards my butt. Now I should be feeling a stretch across this tissue here in the front of the leg. I'm gonna hold that stretch for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm gonna begin to drive the shin bone into this box. So I'm using this tissue here across the bottom of my knee, or across the front of my knee, to drive into the box. In 3, 2, 1, after my 10-second ramp to max effort, I'm gonna pull the heel, or try to pull the heel towards the butt using the hamstring stuff. Try to pull, 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 squeeze, 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 and then slowly relax. Passive range holds are a great input for our joint tissue. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our joint into the range of motion that is passive. So that's the motion that we're able to move our body into, not under our own control, but under our control of our hands. So in the case of a passive range for me, for here, it would be how much can I pull this leg up to create passive range of knee flexion here, okay? So in this next clip, I'm gonna show you how to do a passive range hold for knee flexion, but not just without any load. We're gonna add a little bit of load to that. If you're just starting out, you wanna just try that without load first, and then progressively move towards adding load with ankle weights and things of that nature. All right, we're doing standing passive range hold, okay? So how are we gonna do this? What we do is we take our hand, grab our leg, pull ourselves into flexion, sniff some air into the abdomen, hold, and slowly release, and try to hold that position. Fight for it, fight for it. We can go to failure, or we can go for a designated time frame that we want to train. A knee flexion liftoff is a great way to challenge the range of motion that you have control and access to. So we're gonna take you very close to your end range at times, and then we're gonna ask you, can you contract and lift your foot into flexion? We can change the intensity by bringing you closer to your end range. So the further you are away from your end range of knee flexion, the easier it's going to be to lift off. The closer you are to your end range of knee flexion, so closing down that joint, so the closer you are to here, bringing the heel to the butt, the harder it's going to be to find any room to actually lift off. So check out this next clip as I show you how to do a lift off for a knee flexion. So from here we'll do lift offs. So knee flexion lift offs like such from hip extension. We'll just try to lift the leg or lift the tibia as much as we can, trying to bring the heel to the butt. Okay, so we can change the height of our lift off. So we can start with a foot that's flat. That's going to give us a different sensation than a foot that's dorsiflexed. We can also change position here and get a box, come out a little bit, and try to lift off from there. That's going to change the intensity of the movement. So grab onto something, get nice and strong, get tall through the torso, and lift, squeeze those hamstrings. I hope you found this video useful. Remember, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a post from me again.